Let's be honest, a lot of parents worry about screen time. But what's the actual alternative? Well, today we're going to look into one father's simple experiment to find a different kind of toy. And what he discovered? Well, it might just surprise you.
Yeah, this quote, it just hits home, doesn't it? It's a feeling so many of us can relate to. That sense that while the screens are definitely entertaining, something deeper might be missing. And it was that exact feeling that kicked off this whole simple experiment.
So let's dig into this. What was the real problem this dad was facing? Because it wasn't as simple as just screens are bad. It was a lot more about what was happening, or maybe what wasn't happening during all that screen time.
So here's the thing. It's not that his daughter didn't enjoy the screens. Of course she did. But the enjoyment was fleeting. The father noticed that she was always entertained, for sure, but never really settled. The second that screen turned off, the cycle started all over again. That constant need for the next bit of stimulation. And this really lays out the contrast perfectly. On one side, you have screen entertainment, right? It's all about those quick hits, the instant rewards, the passive consumption. But on the other side, the whole goal here was to find something that required patience, sparked some real creativity, and led to a more meaningful, lasting sense of accomplishment.
So what was the big solution? Some high-tech, super educational gadget? Nope. The experiment started with something surprisingly simple, a classic old-school Friendship Bracelet Kit. And this is such a key detail. He went into this with really realistic expectations. He wasn't looking for some magical breakthrough that would replace screens forever. He just wanted to see what would happen. What would happen if he introduced an activity that was slow, quiet, and personal. Just a simple test.
The appeal of this kit was really in its simplicity. It did one thing. Make bracelets. That's it. There were no batteries, no apps asking for updates, and no rigid instructions on exactly what the final product had to look like. In a world of really complex toys, this must have felt like a total breath of fresh air.
And get this was his daughter's very first question when she opened the box, and it took him completely by surprise. Her immediate instinct wasn't about what she could get from the toy, but what she could give. Her mind went straight to connection, to generosity. And that really stuck with her dad.
Now, this experiment wasn't an instant success, not by a long shot. In fact, you could say the most valuable lessons actually came from those initial struggles.
Yeah, the first few attempts were pretty messy. There was definitely some frustration, knots that needed untying, and patterns that had to be completely restarted. But instead of seeing this as a failure of the toy, the father saw it as a feature. The toy was teaching her that it's okay to make mistakes and just try again.
So this process created this powerful little learning cycle. You attempt something, you face that frustration, you undo the work, and you try again. This wasn't just about making bracelets. It was a real, tangible lesson in resilience, something a lot of modern toys are actually designed to help kids avoid.
So the crucial point is right here. The real value of this simple kit wasn't that it was so entertaining, but that it couldn't provide instant gratification. It forced a slowdown. It created space to learn from mistakes and build patience, skills that are honestly pretty hard to practice in a world of immediate rewards. But then, after all those initial struggles, came a breakthrough. The whole dynamic shifted from a guided effort to just independent, focused creativity.
And this was the real signal of success. She didn't need to be prompted or asked anymore. She would just go get the kit herself, spread out all the colorful threads, and start working quietly at the table. It had become her activity.
And that must have been the big aha moment for her father. There she was, completely absorbed in what she was doing. No TV buzzing in the background, no tablet in her lap, just quiet, independent focus, creating something with her own two hands. This whole experience led the father to a new definition of what a good toy really is. It has nothing to do with flashy packaging or exciting features. The real test is whether a child chooses to come back to it again and again, completely on their own terms. And with this kit, she did.
All right, so what are the bigger takeaways here? Let's summarize what this father learned about what truly matters, looking way beyond just this one bracelet kit.
Over several weeks, he noticed these tangible changes. She developed more patience, both with the craft and just in general. She learned not to be afraid of mistakes. She took this immense pride in her creations because she had put in the work. And she continued to find real joy in giving them away as these thoughtful handmade gifts.
So if you're thinking about trying something similar, here are the practical details from the review. The sweet spot for age seems to be around 7 to 9 years old. You'll probably need to give some guidance at first, but the goal is for them to take over themselves. The skills it builds are pretty significant: patience, focus, creativity, fine motor skills. And one of the best parts is its reusability. There's enough material here for dozens of projects.
Ultimately, the takeaway wasn't about the bracelets. It was about the moments the kit made possible. The quiet concentration, the small frustrations followed by that feeling of pride, and the connection you feel when you give something handmade to a friend or family member.
And this quote really just sums up the whole philosophy. The goal isn't to find the one best toy ever based on reviews or what's trending. It's about finding things that just fit your specific child and the rhythm of your own family life.
Which kind of leaves us with a final question to think about. In our constant search for the best or most educational toys, are we maybe overlooking the simple, good enough ones? The ones that create a little space for something far more valuable: quiet, focused, and meaningful moments. It's certainly something to think about.